to a series of webinars conducted by United Honest Technology. My name is Kalna Vijaysekar and my colleague is Harshan Abhiratna. And in this episode, we are going to talk about taking the mobile leap with enterprise systems. So we'll start right away by sharing our screen, so you have interesting stuff to look at. Just to give you an outline of the discussion today, we are going to first look at how to derive a mobile application as an enterprise system or enterprise product. So you know what to build. And then we are going to look into the technology selection that will be involved within creating of the application. And finally, we'll be looking at going to the market just to share some pointers that will be useful for you. And in this discussion, we are not going to talk about why you should mobile enable your enterprise system. Chances are that you have already figured out, and that's the reason that you are with us today.
Yes, Kalana. So we also have a Q&A session after this discussion. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in this Hangout room. So let's get started then. So we realized that we need a mobile application for your enterprise to go with our enterprise application. So how would you start? How would you go about this mobile application?
So figuring out what to build exactly as a mobile application is so much important than actually making the application. Because this could be some of complicated decisions. So what we advise is to go lean, so that you decide your way as you go on. So what I mean by going lean is you essentially try to identify minimal amount of features out of your enterprise system to implement in your mobile application, which we normally call as a minimum viable product in lean. So what we have seen is a lot of enterprises now try to go in this lean process, and even when they're coming up with a new product, they even make it as a lean startup on its own.
Okay.
And the advantages are that you can validate your features early as possible and see if it works, see if your ideation is correct, and you can go ahead. And also going lean will enable you to convince your stakeholders in the enterprise environment, so that you can convince them to go ahead with this sort of mobile enablement in the first place. So talking about your existing features in your enterprise system, you will have a great list of features you have implemented, and your users might love these features. So it's always challenging to see how we adapt this to mobile. Of course, you'll have to select the most valuable features, because you can't cram all your features in the enterprise system into the mobile application. So this could be a very challenging task, and if you don't do this correctly, users will not actually get the proper experience out of it being a mobile application. So how do we tackle this issue? We tend to go with a lot of mock-up and prototype tools first, so that we can visually ideate what kind of features that's going to go into the application. So to do this, we can use tools like InVision, where you can create mobile screens and try things out. So some of the tools that we use are Sketch, InVision, and Zeppelin, which goes together and let us help do this. So what exactly happens is you'll be visually ideating your features, the different screens in the application, and you can actually share this as an InVision link, which you can try it on the device itself, so that your stakeholders who are making these decisions can try out this application or rather the prototype and actually get the actual feeling that you will be having. Using tools like this will greatly help during the ideation process and let you help choose what kind of features out of all your good features to put into the application. Even with tools like this, what you can do is you can do things like A/B testing. Even you can invite some of your early adopters or users to take a look at this and do your A/B testing, what looks best and what they feel they should use like. So these are some of the approaches that you can come up with ideating your existing enterprise system into a mobile application.
Yeah. So that's actually the ordinary way of doing it. You first select some features from your existing application, then you implement them in your mobile application, then you see how your users behave or how your users use them. Then more than often, like you eventually end up implementing all the features of your enterprise application in your mobile application also. So my point is like there's no point of going mobile just to make a mobile presence. So going mobile is actually investment. You invest a lot on mobile application. You invest a lot on marketing also. So what you need to do is you need to identify a role that a mobile application can play in your organization, and introduce a mobile application as a solution to a certain problem that you have inside your organization. So you may cater like new requirements. You may have you may make it like convenient for your end users to engage with your application. For example, like let's say you have a sales related enterprise application. So your existing application could be or existing desktop or web application could be something like where you keep your logs like inventory or that data. Your mobile application could be a product catalog, or maybe you want your users to log time. You can implement something like that in your mobile application that would really help your users to engage with your system. So so after we identify the requirements and a base for our application, the next thing we need to look at is the technology, what we are building this application with. So Kalana, how do you select a technology for a mobile application in enterprise?
Yeah, Harshana. So we have figured out what product to build, and it could either be transforming your existing application features into a new product, or disrupt entirely and come up with a set of new ways to complement your enterprise system with a mobile application. So you have identified sort of what you need to do. So then you need to select the right tools to get this done. So first we look at the client-side technologies, or the technologies that you're going to actually make the application with. So assuming you are building this application for popular mobile platforms like iOS or Android, you have a number of choices to make at this stage. So choices like whether to go native versus hybrid could be something like that. So, for example, if you think your application needs to interact with a lot of hardware features, or else if your application need very high performance user interfaces with so much of accuracy than a normal ordinary application, probably a best way to do this is with native technologies, like natively developing this with iOS, with Swift or Objective-C, or else with natively with Android. Because the requirements that you have are better catered by those native technologies. And something that we have noticed mostly is that most of the enterprise requirements that are in mobile applications can be catered with good hybrid technologies as well. The advantages that we get out of it is we can have one code base but still support multiple platforms on this. and because of that, the time to market will be so quick. So you'll be able to validate your features and you'll be able to make profits faster. And if you actually implement hybrid platforms correctly, these hybrid platforms have improved so much, your users actually might not be able to tell the difference in an enterprise application because use cases are so smooth. So some of the examples for these closed native alternatives could be React Native, Xamarin, or even Ionic. So using technologies like this, you can get all this advantage of having the same code base but multiple platforms. Well, even your requirement could be so unique that you might want to select entirely uncommon technology stack. For an example, if you want your application to have so much of animation, even gamification, you might want to pick a framework that suits that best. For example, Fuse tools. So your technology selection basically should focus on your requirements and see what chooses best for you, because there are different options with different advantages and disadvantages. So this selection is quite important. Well, when it comes to technology selection for your client, there are other concerns as well.
Yes, of course. So another thing that you need to look at is your team competencies. So you may have team members who are really good at certain technologies that would really help to build a mobile application faster. So you may have a web app, web developers who are familiar with something like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So in fact, like any hybrid, most of the hybrid frameworks would fit for you. Like your developers will feel like home in most of the hybrid frameworks like Ionic or NativeScript or even React Native. Um, if you are coming from a web-based background, even better, like if you're using something like Angular in your front end, if you have a web application and if you use something like Angular, Ionic and Ionic or NativeScript would be best for you. And if you are using React for in your web application, something like React Native would work for you. And so you may have some developers who are familiar with C Sharp. In that case, you can choose something like Xamarin. If you have Java developers with you, you can look at actually natively implement your mobile application with something like Android. So with this familiarity, you can even think of like sharing code between your web application and your mobile applications. If you, for example, if you have a React web app, you can share some of the logic with your React Native mobile application as well. But having this knowledge about other technologies would not necessarily make you a mobile developer. You still have to like learn some of the things about mobile, how you handle certain things in mobile, and of course a little knowledge on native, either Swift or Objective C or Java would take you a long way. So you can actually look at your existing technology stack also. You may already have API that you need to use for this mobile application as well, or you may need to like wrap your API or your backend with a simple lightweight wrapper to use with your mobile application, or maybe you might need to like totally create a new backend or API to use with your mobile application. So let's discuss about these things further. First would be to see how you can reuse your API if you already have an API that you need to work with in your mobile application. Then you can actually use that particular API with your mobile application as well. So, Kalana, what about if you don't actually have existing API, like you can directly use with your mobile application? What would you do then?
Yeah, so if you actually already don't have a web API that your mobile application can straight away consume, one way to go about is creating a lightweight wrapper that can communicate with your mobile application. So we'll take this example. In this case, you already have your nice business logic layer and some sort of interface, which could be a SOAP interface or any other communication interface, which will talk to your clients that you already have. So we'll try to make this into something where you can work with mobile. So in this case, in this particular example, what we are doing is we have a Java sort of existing implementation which has a SOAP interface. So if you want to make this enable for your mobile application to work with, one thing you can do is something like a service proxy, which will help your client to talk in JSON instead of XML or so with the same existing implementation which you have already invested on. Or else, for an example, if you have in different use case like a .NET enterprise system, maybe you will be able to implement a lightweight web API layer, which will, give custom content to your mobile application through the existing business logic. So you are essentially reusing your already invested, stack, but only implementing a very lightweight wrapper around this. So this is one way to go about, and you might be lucky that you don't have a existing web or rather any backend at all, so you don't have any of these complexities. Okay. So then, if you want to go ahead with a mobile application for your enterprise system to sit, parallelly, what you can do is start creating a simple backend using something like Firebase, which allows you to create a suitable backend really, really fast for the basic use cases. So with this, you can easily go up and running with the smallest possible time, which will drastically, reduce your time to market. Okay. And also, this will remove your complexity of deploying your server and so on. So it will be really easy approach to go ahead with a service like Firebase. And this graph you can see right now is a time to market graph. So you can see your profits will be increased obviously if you go to market faster, which will give you more room to add more investment onto your backend and do something better. A small thing to be careful with this is when you select a service like this, you have to be sure of your scaling, how big you will grow, as well as the existing pricing model of the service, so that suddenly there will not be a steep price increase as you try to scale. Yeah. So these are some of the ways you can tackle this problem.
Yes. This actually another way. Okay. You can actually ditch your existing backend and rewrite completely. So I know what you're thinking. Like probably you're screaming right now. You've invested so much on your existing infrastructure. You just don't want to ditch them and rewrite the whole thing. So what I'm saying is this doesn't have to be a one-off thing. You can take this opportunity, going mobile as an opportunity to eventually convert your existing mobile backend or existing backend to a modern backend. So you can actually use this with your new mobile application as well as with other maybe third-party vendors, maybe API as a service to actually use this new backend to actually earn some money while exposing this API to third-party vendors. And also, this is an opportunity to look at something like serverless, where you can actually significantly reduce the running cost. Maybe you have something like an in-house server at the moment, or maybe you have a cloud server that doesn't very well scale. In those scenarios, you can take this opportunity to actually implement something brand new, brand new backend with this investment you are making. So, Kalana, we actually need to think of the design of the mobile application and the architecture. So, how do we decide the architecture, and how do we cater special requirements of enterprise mobile application?
Yes, so we'll be considering everything that we discussed so far in the technical section when we make design and architecture decisions.
Yeah.
But like you said, there could be certain special requirements in terms of features and in terms of business requirements that will also come into your design and architecture decisions. Some of the examples are real-time data synchronization, or if you want to implement some sort of offline functionality where users can still continue to work without network or with with intermediate network connections.
Okay.
Or else it could be simple as push notifications, but where you get notifications during different stages of the application. So your use cases will be disturbed and the data flow will be disturbed and so on. So for these kind of special requirements in the application, you have to customize your design or have this in back of your head when you come up with your design for your application. And even consider this in the backend, where to create certain adapters or providers to invoke certain triggers and so on. So all this should go into the design and architecture phase when you design this application. And even on mobile, certain frameworks such as Realm or even Redux will give you advantages for certain special requirements, and also you have to consider what selection of frameworks will give you disadvantages when it comes to supporting this sort of design.
Yeah.
So I think we've discussed a lot about the technology side of the application, ideally as it should be.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time to move on to the next section.
Yes. So after all these steps, we discuss how we can initially select some features to implement in your mobile application. Then we talked about the technology aspect of it. Now we actually need. We now actually have the MVP. We identified the features. We selected a framework or rather a language or a way to actually implement this application. Now you have a MVP that you think that has potential that your users would love, but you can't just go and release this to end users, because you actually need to battle test your application before you go to production. So first thing you need to do is actually do a soft launch, where this is actually the first time that your app is being used by the users. This is not for public, but internal parties, maybe selected user groups even, to actually identify bugs, maybe see their feedback and improve features, functionalities, and maybe you have usability issues that you need to solve. You can do all that after the soft launch. Then comes the hard launch, where you actually release your product to the market. So this product that you release to your end users would be more stable. You may have some features that you didn't have in the soft launch stage. Maybe you have some features that gain you a competitive advantage over your competitors. This is actually where your marketing team also joins and do a marketing campaign to promote your application. So after the hard launch, also you can constructively improve your application based on the feedback you get, and maybe even add more features based on users' feedback and their requirements. So Kalana, we talked about, we actually talked about the basic idea of market strategy. How would you go to the market? But I think we need to discuss this further in detail. So maybe you can.
Yeah, we will discuss certain things in detail so that we can give some specific pointers to our audience.
Okay.
So we'll talk a little bit about alpha and beta deployments, because it's really important to roll out to people before you go public.
Yeah.
So there are several ways to do this. So it's a really good idea to onboard few testers as at the very early stages, and also, being this an enterprise application, it's really important that you deploy this internally so you can get feedback internally before you go to the market.
Yeah.
Especially in an enterprise environment, it's sometimes you end up facing a lot of red tape. So this will be one opportunity. You can convince people and get their feedback early so that you have a solid product to go to market with. So how do you do actually alpha and beta deployments? You should have a platform which enables you to do a controlled launch for selective set of users.
Okay.
So both Google Play for Android and TestFlight for iOS has these features. Google Play has alpha and beta stages in the release pipeline. And on iOS, there's a separate feature called TestFlight, which allows you to, onboard and pre-deploy your builds.
Okay.
So, and other than these two main tools, there are third parties who doesn't really own a platform, but they have a solution such as like Microsoft App Center, which also lets you onboard your beta users and alpha users. So you can try out your application with them and get feedback before you go to the market. And if you are so sure that application is so good, and of course you should go to the market. When it comes to enterprise application distribution, there are instances you can't go to the public app store.
Okay.
Because this might be a application that is custom built for an enterprise, which shouldn't go beyond that organization.
Okay.
Or else it might be a group of companies which need to restrict how users use their application and so on. So to do this, there are ways to do this in all the popular platforms. In Apple Developer Enterprise Program, there's a way to there's something called Apple Developer Enterprise Program. It allows you to onboard selective set of users and launch this for a selected enterprise. And the advantages are the distribution of the application is much more secure, and also through similar platforms you can make sure your application is bound to the different organization device policies, which you can enforce for a bigger enterprise. And also you can give things like special pricing for your partners. If it is for a university or something, multiple university partners will be there, so you can use the program. On Google Play, they have something called Managed Google Play Distribution. It is pretty much the same, similar features, you can get it done. And alternatively, there are more delivery platforms for applications which provides like unification of these features. Sometimes some of the platforms let you control both iOS and Google from one dashboard. Like there are several platforms like App Library or App Scatter. So these are different platforms that you can try out when it comes to going to the market. And one more thing that I want to mention is, as developers, we try to make our applications as like awesome as possible, as robust as possible.
Yeah.
But sometimes, those tiny bugs go through. So that is where when we end up having to do hot fixes. So one of the way to so there are several ways to hot fixes. One of the way, if you happen to use certain hybrid systems, you can use Microsoft App Center, a feature called Code Push. What happens is, in a conventional way of deploying application, you push your application to the App Store, you fix your bugs and put an update to the App Store, and it goes through the App Store. So it has the delays that might happen within an App Store. Especially for Apple, there will be a review process which will take at least a few days. So there might be a delay. But using something like Code Push, you can do partial updates to your application, probably bypassing this app stores. So it doesn't have to wait for the review process. So your users will be getting these updates a lot faster than the conventional ways. So there are a few workarounds to do hotfixes as well, and this would basically depend on the technology stack that you choose. Um, and Since we're talking about going to market, this involves a lot of actions on developer part, like ensuring the source code is clean, and you do the provisioning and push it to the relative platform. So using continuous integration and continuous delivery is a good way that you can reduce developer effort that is going on to this, the task that you would normally consider as, technical course, right? You don't have to spend time there. So some of the solutions are like Fastlane and Bitrise, even classic integration service like Jenkins. You can use these tools to make sure together, like if you use these tools in combination, you will be able to ensure your source code is good, so that no developer waits on a broken code, and your code is clean and good because of the automated testing. And Fastlane will help you do your provisioning, like creating provision profiles, certificates, and so on, and you can automate it. And finally, things like Bitrise can help you go all the way to the App Store as well, and post test builds, and then which you can promote to production builds. So these are few of the pointers that you can make the going to market process a bit more streamlined and a bit more efficient.
Yes. So when you go to the market, most important thing would be to see how your users use your mobile application. So how we do that is through mobile analytics. So it's actually a measure of ROI, return on investment of your mobile application, the investment you make, and we actually can take like accurate measurements on usage, certain features, and we actually analyze the data through mobile analytics. So we also can see like what features receive like lots of friction and technical issues, maybe even crash reporting. Like even though we test our application thoroughly, sometimes mobile apps crash. In these scenarios, we need to like identify the exact technical issues and fix them. So there are a couple of ways or other implementations, couple of ways we can do analytics. One would be to use something like inbuilt analytics. So your Google Play has inbuilt analytics, and also iTunes also has analytics inbuilt. So you can see things like total installs. Maybe you can align your total installs with your marketing strategy. We also can look at the devices, like what kind of devices our users use to run our mobile application. Maybe we can test on these devices more, and also like there can be like usability issues on certain devices. We can identify them. Um, and also we can see like how many installs are there, like how many people install our application. So maybe like we are doing something wrong, like maybe we can improve our offerings. and also we can see like number of crashes that requires our immediate attention. And we can even look at like more complex analytic tools like Google Analytics, where you can actually see a lot of data about your users. You can even see like how many are using your application at this moment. So you can also see like demographic stats. Maybe like you can do some custom actions, like see how many how your users use certain actions, how much time your users spend on certain screens, and also like we can get more detailed crash reports also. So I think that's wrap up. So we discussed a lot about like different approaches, and from initial stage, from selecting some features to like to App Store and analytics, how you can continuously improve your application. We talked about them all. So some of these things that we talked about may not like work for you, but it's up to your team and for you to actually decide what suits best for you. So I think that's it.
Hope to see you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.